welcome to another up close video. Today's one is for Tonic Stamp Club number 9, which is called Shoot for the Stars. Now you may think that this would go really nicely with a previous stamp club. I'll just show you what it is. It did sell out. I think it was the first ever one to sell out, and it sold out in like 1 or 2 days. But this is the one that I'm thinking goes absolutely perfectly with this set. This was called Shoot for the Moon, whereas this one's called Shoot for the Stars. So if you got hold of Stamp Club number 4, I think this one is going to be a brilliant one to go with it, to create even more like different scenes and stuff, because you've got extra landscapes within this one that would work really nicely with the mountainscape and the trees and stuff from the previous stamp club. But anyway, this one, so this month is number 9. I can't believe it's been 5 months since that set actually. That's crazy. But anyway, this month's one is, as you can tell from the title, more about stars. So there is tons of star dies in here. I haven't actually counted them. I think I should think there's over at least 15, possibly 20 different star dies within this die set that coordinates with the stamp set. And so I don't think you're ever going to need another star die. And if you're a fan of stars, then you know this is going to be perfect for you. And it's really nice. There's a mixture of like regular stars, 5-pointed ones that are all equal all the way around, and there's also a mixture of like slightly wonky sort of stars as well, which all nest inside each other. And then you've got loads of little tiny ones that are also a mixture of wonky and perfectly symmetrical kind of stars as well, which is really nice. But first, let's have a look at the stamp set, considering this is a stamp club. I think maybe in my samples I have actually focused slightly more on the dies, and mostly just using these kind of stamps for background purposes. But I suppose that is kind of the case with this month's stamp club. It's not really coordinating dies to go with them. They're kind of more standalone type of dies. A few of them do coordinate, but I would say that they're more kind of a standalone sort of a die set as well as a stamp set. Because there's so many different sentiments in here, which obviously you don't get dies to cut out the sentiments, so obviously you've then got a compensation of that within the die set. You might also notice, do you remember, I think it was last month's one, I'm pretty sure it was last month, that had the circle die with all the fish going around it with the whales. You've kind of got a star version of that as well. So if you really enjoyed that from the last month, then this is going to be another favourite for you from the set as well. And don't just think about it, you having to like cut it into the card or cut it out of the card and use it as a circle. You can just use the fall away pieces as well. There's some really nice sized stars in there, and also tiny little ones and tiny little dots. So that cut out of like double-sided pearlescent card or something is going to work really nicely for little shaker elements in a shaker card, because you haven't got to worry too much about them being the right way around if you've used a double-sided card. Or if you just use any sort of coloured cardstock, there wouldn't be a difference in colour between the front and the back. But anyway, let's have a look at the stamp set first. So this is the gorgeous set. There's quite a lot of like background building elements within this stamp set, which is really lovely, and that's why I say it would go really nicely with number 4 stamp club as well, if you did manage to get that one, because it definitely did sell out. It was a very popular one. But anyway, we've got this beautiful cluster of stars, which works fantastically to give that look of splatter. You know that I love doing splatter on my cards, and I know some people find it hard to recreate that kind of look, and it kind of goes everywhere or doesn't go where you want it to. But this kind of a stamp with all of the sort of scattering of stars, and I think there's little dots in there as well, it kind of emulates that splatter kind of look on your card without actually having to load up a paintbrush and splatter it, which is really lovely. And then there's also this one as well, which could just be like a shooting star. You could combine this with the fairies from a couple of months ago. We had the gorgeous fairies. This could kind of be like the magic dust coming off of the fairy wand, or again it can just be a kind of splattery sort of design of a stamp. There's nothing to say you have to ink up the large solid one. You can just use a portion of it and get that little splattery, sprinkly kind of effect using that. Then you have another kind of like moon or planet, I guess. I think it is actually the same image. If I bring back in Stamp Club number 4, that is the same image. So on this stamp club it was a moon, so I guess you can use that as a moon again, just in a smaller scale. If you don't want to have such a gigantic full moon, you've kind of got that small scale moon, or you know, because it's smaller, it could just be a planet in the distance as well, and you could do it like, make it sort of look more Saturny with using reddy kind of colours and then colouring in the background of it as well, rather than having it as like a white moon. You can colour it in to be more of an actual planet. You've kind of got this sort of stylised solar system kind of a thing, or if you're into chemistry, it could kind of be an atom, because you have the first orbital only has 2 electrons and then the next one has 8 electrons going around it. So atomic number of 5 is like technically a boron atom. If you're into electrons and atoms and stuff, we're having the 2 s orbital electrons and then 3 p orbital electrons. That's actually boron, if you're interested. That's actually the electron structure of boron for like a basic atom. Look, that's kind of how you get taught it at A-level kind of looking diagram, if you're interested. You've also got a gorgeous little constellation, which kind of, it looks like the Big Dipper. I think that's what that's called, but then it's got like extra bits added on. I'm not sure if that's an actual accurate constellation. I'm not that good with like all the different names for constellations and stuff, but it might actually be one that you know. And if you're a fan of constellations and astronomy and stuff, comment below and tell me which one that is, because I'd be interested to know if it is a real one. I've also got this gorgeous border, which is a kind of a straight line with little stars all along it, and they are the wonky kind of stars. You can see on mine though, I actually cut it in half, because I know, knowing me and the way I make my cards, I know that I'm going to utilise that more in 2 short sections than just 1 long strip. So I did decide to cut it, but as you can see, you can just butt it straight up against each other and line it up again if you want to. So there's not too much in just lining up the 2 portions again if I did want to do it in a straight line. But I think it's a really lovely border that you could use, whether it's in your card making or your art journaling, or I was really enjoying using the 2 half versions and having them as like little elements dangling down from the clouds. I thought that looked really lovely, and especially for like a new baby's card, which I'll show you later on in the video as well. Then we've got 2 mountainscapes, which will go perfectly with Stamp Club number 4 if you did manage to get it. And these actually have coordinating dies with them, so depending on what kind of project you're doing or how many layers of like landscape you want to be able to see in the background, you've got the option to just stamp the landscapes, just die cut the landscapes, or stamp and then die cut if you want to as well. So you've got multiple options of how to sort of build up your scene. Maybe you've put some characters in it or something, and then you decide that you want to kind of ground them more, but you can't stamp the earth because you've already added the characters, so you can then die cut it out and add it over the top. So there's lots of different options for how you might want to use these 2 kind of landscape pieces. But don't just think of them as a landscape, because on one of my cards I used these 2 edges, the dies, as like an edge for the card, and also for like an edge or a banner piece to put the sentiment on. So don't just think of them as landscapes. You could easily create some kind of pattern with this. I mean, it's a little bit rocky, but if you stamped it in multiple different colours of blue going down a card, and then maybe highlighted some of the edges with a little bit of white or with a little bit of glitter or something, it could give the look of like waves coming in on the sea, and sort of overlapping each other to give the different tones of blue as well. So there is loads of different ways of using this kind of a stamp if you just think outside the box a little bit, or maybe just stamp them out and have a look at them actually stamped out, twist them up different ways and stuff, and see what you can see from them as well. But also, if you like your watercolouring, this kind of stamp off in the background, and then imagine like a big lake coming out in front of those mountains. You could do a lovely watercoloured kind of lake and then just drop in some colour below where the mountains are to kind of give that look of a reflection in the water. And then you could even bring in the trees from Stamp Club number 4 and have sort of like larger trees in the foreground and stuff to give a cool look like that as well. So don't just think of like basic uses for them. Have a think about other things you've wanted to try using perhaps. Like, I still do really want to master watercolours, but I never seem to find the time to properly sit down and try and learn them. But you know, these kind of stamps are brilliant for that sort of thing, because you might think, oh, I don't think I could get that sort of random look of a silhouetted landscape in the background to then do a lake or a river or something in front of it, but then you've got it all there for you. So I think those stamps are really kind of useful for that sort of thing. And then we have multiple other small tiny little stamps. So we've got this one, which is just like a cross, that you could use, I guess, for a really distant star shining really brightly. Then you've also got this kind of star here, which could be like the North Star for a Christmas card. And then you've got a little 5-pointed star, which it's quite skinny with long sort of extremities on it. Then you've got a sort of line drawn out star. You've got this, how many is that? 8-pointed star. Then you've got another 5-pointed star that's a bit sort of chubbier and hasn't got a skinny kind of branches. You've got this kind of, again, another bright sort of shining star in the distance, a larger 5-pointed solid star, a smaller version of this kind of with slightly skinnier points to it. You've got a little lightning bolt, and then another 5-pointed star as well. So you do have lots of different elements, and I've just noticed that one that I said looks like boron, it's actually two different stamps. So if you stamp them inside each other, you get a boron atom. If you stamp them individually, you kind of get that look of like moons orbiting a planet or something. So that's quite cool. And then tons of sentiments in here that you can combine with the two dies that are on the die set as well. You get Wish and Star on the die set, so you can combine them within this, but you do also get the words Wish and Star in here, so you don't have to use the dies if you don't want to. And also in some of the cards I'll show you later on, I showed how you don't have to just use these kind of sentiments. You can just make them more sort of everyday cards as well and combine them with the rest of your stash, which is lovely. So you've got, we are all made of stardust, you are, then we have A over here, you might need that to join a few words together, and then you've got make, so you can do make a wish with the stamp set, or you are a star, with the die set, and then you've got shine on, my, gold, wish upon, thee, in a sky full of stars, moon, does that say moon? Oh no, it says nova. Oh, so you've got super, so you can have supernova, or you are super or something, or a superstar. You've got shooting star, lucky, brightest star in the sky, and then you've also got when it's dark, look for the stars. And I just noticed there's another star stamp there as well that's a little outline of a 5-pointed star too. So there's loads of different sentiments in here that you can mix and match together to create quite unique kind of sentiments, or really sort of more personal as well. I mean, I think mixing these with other dies and stamps from your stash as well will be really, really lovely to create some different, more everyday kind of sentiments as well. So then let's go on to the die set, and I'm going to show you which ones actually coordinate first. There aren't that many of them, but there are you know, a decent amount of them. You know, there's a few that will coordinate together. For example, the two mountains, you have a coordinating die for both of the mountains. You have a coordinating die for this one that I said looks a little bit like the North Star. You've got an actual die to cut that one out, which is really nice. And then you also have this die, which you could use to cut that one out. And then you also have a smaller version of that as well, which I guess would probably fit over that too. So you've kind of got two options for cutting that skinny little star out. And then you do also have the kind of planet or moon one that would cut that out. I think it would be, yeah, without a white border as well, which is nice. And then you also have multiple stars that should coordinate as well. Like you have a little layering set of 5-pointed stars, and they would actually go over the 5-pointed stars that you've got within the die set or the stamp set. And then you've also got this one goes and matches that one, and then I think this one would match that, and I'm guessing any of these kind of more individual little dies are the ones that are supposed to kind of match. That one, it doesn't match exactly, but you could use it to cut out that one, or maybe this one is supposed to be for that actually. Yeah, I think maybe that one is supposed to go for that star. So there are a lot that actually coordinate nicely. Oh, and you might be for this one actually. Yeah, so I think that's all of them. You might have spotted an extra 1 or 2 that do cut them out as well, but there's quite a decent amount. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 coordinating dies, and then all the rest are sort of gorgeous extra dies that you can just use them by themselves, or you can combine them with some other stamps as well. So let's go back and look at this one. You see, like the Stamp Club number 4, you had the circle, and then you also had this flat piece of metal that has little hole details cut into it, and the idea is that you would like take these two together and run them through your die cutting sandwich, and the card will push through these details to give us a light emboss, or you can like die cut it first and then put this on top and run it through with your squidgy green embossing map with the tangerine, and then it should make the card poke up through these details even more. Or you can die cut this and then put this over the top and ink through it, use it like a stencil, and just add the kind of craters as an inked portion as well. And then I don't know whether I'm going to go through every single little star that's on here, but I'll put these two back because you actually get 3 sets of nesting stars. So you get the 5-pointed star, and these do coordinate with the stamps. So you get the sort of more of like an inch kind of star, and then like half an inch, and then a teeny tiny one in the centre. So that's one sort of layering set, and then you get 2 wonky layering sets, but they are actually different. So this one has 4 stars, and this one also has 4 stars as well, but they are different wonkiness, which is quite nice actually, because you can kind of layer them and they're slightly different to each other. You can see how the points, they're in the same places, but the wonkiness is slightly different. So you can get some cool funky looks layering them up, which is really nice as well. It just makes it a little bit different, doesn't it? And it means that you can recreate that same wonky star shape multiple times, because you could just cut a wonky star by hand, but being able to like recreate it loads of times to use on a card for a background, I think it's really nice to actually have the die there to be able to do that. And these two are the 2 different ones. So that's the biggest one there and the second size down there. You see they look pretty similar, but then when you layer them up, they are a little bit offset from each other. So you can do like a sort of shadowed effect with them. You could sort of twist them slightly and have them going in the different areas between each other as well. So there's loads of different ways of using all of the different stars. Then, as well as stars, you also get the lightning bolts. So in the stamp set, you had a tiny little, more of like a Harry Potter scar lightning bolt. And then here you've got 2 different lightning bolts as well. A slightly fatter one with just 1 kink in it, and then a thinner one with a couple of kinks in it. And they look really nice layered on top of each other. You'll see that in my cards later on. But I really like those lightning bolts. And don't forget, you can actually just use the aperture of them as well. I've got this piece here, which is the aperture of a load of different stars that I was cutting out, a load of different of the wonky stars. You could use that as a stencil, or you can have, I did save the aperture here, there we go, an aperture of the lightning bolts, and you could ink through that and use that as a stencil as well. I just think that's a really nice way of using it, and I have a couple of lightning bolts cut out here to show you actually how I liked to layer them. So there's multiple ways of layering them. You could do them more like that. You could push them down so that they're actually sort of lining up, if they would stay, with each other, and I like having the larger one behind obviously and the smaller one in the front, and using a mixture of different cardstocks looks really nice. Obviously you could do like a yellow one instead of the white, and then a gold coming through the front, but whatever kind of colour scheme you're working towards, I think those lightning bolts are just really lovely. Then to go along with like lightning bolts, obviously where does a lightning bolt come from? It comes from the sky, and then you kind of need clouds because it's usually raining when there's lightning. So you've got 2 beautiful clouds in this die set. I think these are my favourite dies from this die set. I just really love those clouds. They're really gorgeous puffy kind of clouds, and I use them on quite a few of the projects that I'll show you later as well. But I really do love those clouds. Really, really nice. And obviously, if you've been collecting all of the stamp clubs, they are designed to kind of coordinate with each other so you can mix and match elements. And with the party animals one, I think that might have been number 2, we had the like puffy cloud border die, so you could now combine that with these clouds as well, or just use these clouds with the critters and create a scene with them too. So, you know, there's loads of different mix and matchy options between all of the different stamp clubs that have been out. Then I've already spoken about the moon, but you also get a crescent moon as well, gorgeous little crescent moon, which again I think looks fabulous for a like new baby kind of a card, which I'll show you later on. Then the largest die on the set is this gorgeous circular one with all of those stars in it. I think there are tons of different ways that you could use this one, and I'll mention a few ideas later on as well, but just to get the confetti out of it is a really lovely way of using it as well. There's some decent sized stars in here. You could just then scatter them across your card instead of using sequins or pre-made confetti. You can actually like make use of the kind of waste pieces from another card that you might have made as well, which is always lovely. Then you've got the two scripty words. So you've got wish, a gorgeous scripty wish with the bubble as well, so you can cut it from vellum like I like to do, or you can cut it from solid card. And then you've also got star as well. And if you were clever and you wanted to have the word stars like with an S on the end for a sentiment, you could even snip out the S from the word wish and put it on the end of the word stars. I have done that, I cannot remember what video it was, but I did it with stamps. Oh, it was a kit video. It was kit 44, the Christmas one, where I added the S on the end of the word cheer to make it cheers. So you can do the same thing with dies as well. You can like snip them out. And then if you have a messy join where you've added like the S on the end, you can just strategically place a tiny little bit of confetti or one of these little stars over it, and then no one will know. They'll just think it's like a random scattering of stars on there, and they won't know that there's a join for the word. And then finally, the rest of the dies that are on the set are just a ton of little stars, basically, that you can cut individually. So if you want to do a sort of aperture effect all over a background, having them all individual, I mean, obviously you can do that with this kind of a background, but having all these tiny stars individually gives you more options as well as just having this too. So you could use these ones for cutting out your confetti to go in your shakers, but it's probably easier to use something like this. But if you just wanted a small scattering of them down your card, or to create a little line of them, perhaps a line of little star apertures down a card, these kind of little ones are absolutely perfect for doing stuff like that. I mean, we can count them and see. I may have lost one though, so I don't want to tell you an exact number and then you find out you've got more or less. But from what I have, I think I've managed to keep track of them all, but there are quite a few of them. But I've got 5 here, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then you've got actually tiny ones inside all these stacking ones as well. So there is definitely more than 20 stars on this die set. Provided I haven't lost any of them, I've just counted 26 different stars on here, plus like the main star die as well. So there's even more stars on here. So it really is a lovely set if you love your stars, because I don't think you're ever going to need another star die. But if you also have larger stars within your collection, like I have a die set, it's one of the original kind of ones that I bought years and years ago. It's probably like this sort of size, and it's this kind of star, so I'm thinking I can use them in conjunction with star dies that I already have as well, which is really nice. So yeah, I'll be back in 1 second to show you some samples that I've done. So I've got a couple of samples here that were just extra random ones that I decided to make. I'm pretty sure with that Stamp Club number 4 with the moon, I did a similar kind of idea to this, and I think I did it as a sped up video. So if you want the actual kind of process to make this sort of card, go and have a look at that one. That's why I didn't bother filming this one, because I knew I'd done something similar recently. But basically I was using 3 of my Glimmer pastes to create an ombre down the background. So I started with strawberry champagne, then I went on to garnet red, and then on to plum spinel, and it makes a really nice kind of ombre from pink to purple with the red in the middle. And then while it was still wet, I just sprinkled in some star confetti, obviously going with the star theme for the whole set. So I was using the Mirrorball stars, which is from the Golden Years confetti set. I'm not 100% sure if this is still available, but there are plenty of other different colours of stars within the Nuvo confetti range. So you might already have ones like that. But yeah, I just think it looks really cool, and it's another way of kind of using up your glimmer paste before they dry out. They do last a long time, but obviously every product has a kind of shelf life. If you spread it onto something and it's going to dry if it's exposed to the air. So once you've opened a container of a glimmer paste or something, it is going to start to dry out as soon as you've opened it, because you've let air into the container. So like for example, my red one, it's almost dead really. It's quite hard, but you can still make use of it, because I did still use the red in the central section under here, and having two that are still nice and juicy really helps to kind of blend out that colour. So I thought I'd show you this kind of a card, because it's a good way if you've got some glimmer paste that you've opened like a year ago or something. You might want to use them up before they dry out and you can't use them, because unlike the Nuvo embellishment mousse, which you can actually revive and use again, sometimes it's gone past the point of no return and you can't get it back again. But glimmer paste is also something that you can't get back. Once it has set, it is literally, that's it, it's done. So I mean, obviously when you've used it through a stencil or you've used it on a project, you know how rock solid that it dries. So it's eventually it's going to dry like that in the tub if you haven't used it all, because you've let the air into the container. So I do also recommend trying to keep that foil on there as well, because this pink one, I know it's a newer one that I've opened probably more recently than the red, but it has stayed juicier than the red one, which I took the foil off of. I'm pretty sure this red one is one of my originals, and so I probably got these in about 2016, so that is actually quite a long time for that to have been open, and I could still use a little bit of it. So obviously they do last a few years, but if you have opened them, then their lifespan is going to keep shortening as time goes on. So I just thought it would be nice to show you another technique for using your glimmer pastes with, and this is using lots of the wonky stars, mixing the two little nesting sets of the two different wonky shapes all over the background, and then adding the glimmer paste background behind it so that you can see it through the apertures. And then I also used some of the fall away stars from that large circular design as well, plus maybe a couple of the individual ones to get the larger ones, and then scattered them across the card too. So I actually had these left over from another card that I'll show you later on. So any stars that you do have left over, or like all of these little bits of pieces that I've got left over, like lightning bolts and little moons and other stars and stuff, it's quite nice to keep these in a little pot so you've got them to add on to a project when you need them. And then I've used the Wish die, which is a really gorgeous script. I really like this scripty Wish. And then instead of using the stamps, I decided to just use my Dymo labeler, because I love using my Dymo labeler. So I just did Wish upon a star as a different sentiment that isn't in the actual stamp set. And then this is where I've used that mountain border die to actually create decorative borders on my card. So I cut loads of the wonky stars, and I just did a whole random kind of laying down of them all over the background. So I started with the largest ones and then built up in smaller sizes, layering some on top of others and stuff, using a mixture of smooth coloured card, textured coloured card, mirror card, luxury embossed card, just to give it a completely different look, but trying to sort of balance it across the card so you have a little bit of mirror reflection across the whole background. And then I took the less mountainy kind of side border and cut that along the side of the card. I have left it, it's a white panel with stars stuck on against a white card blank, so you could have put a colour behind that if you wanted that to be even more noticeable, but I quite like it, just that random sort of fading off edge. And then I thought, well, if I've used that edge on the card, I might as well use the other edge. So I took the more mountainous kind of one, I cut it into a piece of like a dark maroony coloured card, and then I snipped it so that I had both sides of the die cut basically, or I suppose I placed the die in the middle of a rectangle of card so that I had the positive and negative of the die cut. So you had them, that's actually the mountains, and that is the other waste bit from the mountains. And so I thought, well, I might as well use both of them to create a cool almost torn looking strip going across the card. You see I've placed them exactly above and below, so it almost looks like it's like a torn piece, which I thought was quite nice. And then to hide the join in the middle but also make it look like a design element, I just added a strip of the pink card that I'd used in the background as well. And then again, I could have used the stamps because there is actually URA in the stamp set, but I wanted to just use my Dymo labeler, so I did URA star as a sentiment on that one. And then another sample I've got to show you is a little bit of an art journal page. So you might recognise this side of it. This was using Stamp Club number 4, and you can see how perfectly they go together. So this is just like a random art journal that I made using a load of jelly printed papers. But if you go back to the video where I showed you this art journal, which was in the up close for Stamp Club number 4, you will have seen that this page only had this turquoise on because I wasn't planning on making it a double page spread. But then as soon as I saw that these dies were going to coordinate nicely, I then had to go back through my stash, find the same kind of black ink that I'd been using, or black paint that I'd been using on the jelly plate to create this background, and I brought that across and then used all of the new elements on this side of the page to kind of complete it. So whereas before it was just a one page spread which looked really nice, but now it's actually a double page spread just from using the new stamps and dies together. So in this one I had used this speckly stamp and I had stamped with a Nuvo glitter marker, so I used the star speckly stamp on this side and again stamped with the same Nuvo glitter marker. I've done splashes of some of the paint to kind of tie the blocky areas together. I've heat embossed the clouds in the same way as I did the moon. So the moon over here has actually got embossing powder on it, and so I did the clouds in the exact same way. And this is using the Pearl Luster glitter embossing powder from Nuvo. I think this works perfectly for clouds and moons and stuff like that. But I was also thinking, if you were just doing this on a card, not a book that needs to be relatively flat, you could also use stone drops for your clouds as well. I think that would look really nice. I mean, you could completely cover it, or you could kind of, you know, add a thicker layer sort of around the bottom and then pat it into the middle so it's lighter and do it onto a white card so the colour's not too different. Then you could just leave it as that texture, or I was also thinking you could sprinkle in some white glitter as well. There's lots of different white glitters to choose from in the Nuvo range. I think this is the newest one, that if you got kit number 44 you might have got this one in there, and I think there's maybe like 5 different white glitters now, so you know, any kind of white sparkly glitter would work nicely to give a similar effect if you don't have that embossing powder, or if you just want to do something different. Then I've also used that little tiny constellation in the background there. I just white heat embossed it onto that black chalky paint. I've used lots of the different star dies just to sort of randomly go everywhere, and funnily enough I had actually drawn some stars on this page, so it's quite nice that there's now stars on this side but using the die cuts. And then obviously the gorgeous clouds, I love those clouds so much, and I used the stamp that I'd cut in half to do the 3 little strings coming out from below the cloud. I just really love that look. I think it looks really nice. But also, as you'll see later on in one of the other samples, you can also use the water droplet gemstones if you got them. I don't think you can get them anymore, but if you did get any of them, or you got them in your stash, or you know, any other kind of water droplet shaped sort of gemstones, they work really nicely as like rain coming out of the cloud as well, to go with like the thunder and lightning. So I'll now pass you on to Past Me to show you 6 more different samples that I created. I'm sorry if this video is a little bit all over the place. I filmed it kind of in multiple different sections this month, but hopefully it kind of flows. So I'll pass you over to Past Me. So I've got a few more samples to share with you. I have got these 3, which is a little set of tags using some of the different dies to decorate them. And then I've actually created a galaxy background for the background of them. It's quite a subtle colour, but I did a photographic step-by-step which will be on the Tonic blog, showing exactly how I created the galaxy backgrounds for these. And I actually decided to pick a 3-pack of Aquaflows to use rather than mixing and matching from all of them, just in case you've never had Aquaflows before and you wanted to get the colours that I'd use to kind of like try this galaxy background technique. So I used the Surprise Party set of Aquaflows, which is the Mango Mimosa, Flamingo Pink and Indigo Batik colours. So I just literally splodged on loads of these colours onto about an A5 piece of card, and then you kind of let it dry, and then you come back in with black soot distress ink, and the large blending brushes from Nuvo are fabulous for getting large coverage over big kind of background areas. And then you can splatter on a little bit of water, pick that back off, some of the colour then comes back through the black. You can then repeat that once it's dry to get more depth of colour, cover up some of the brighter colours a little bit more, and give more depth in darker areas, and then you can like splatter more water onto that to kind of give a star kind of look. I also splattered on some of this, which is the Nuvo Mica Mist in the Aspen Gold colour. I really like this one. You can see the way it separates, it's a gold mica but it's in a clear solution, so whatever you kind of add it to, it just goes perfectly with it. And then I also was using some of the stamps from the Stamp Club to decorate the backgrounds as well. White heat embossing, using like the little constellation and the scattering of stars as well. However, you can see in some places my background of like all of the ink blending and stuff wasn't quite dry, so I did get like, you know, where the embossing powder like statically clings to different areas, or with like the dampness of the cardstock, it kind of sticks to different areas, but it actually gave a really cool look because it did this like pitted sort of effect. So these little circles that are in there is actually where that mica mist had splattered down. So I kind of think it looks like some kind of cool nebula or big gathering or galaxy of stars. So I quite liked the way that happened, so I just left it and heat embossed it to give that kind of random sort of look all over. And you'll see in the step by step, I did it on one sort of A5 piece of card, and then I cut it into the tag shapes. And you might recognise the tag shape because it's actually the large tag that was in kit number 44, which is the most recent Tonic craft kit. So it might still be available when the Stamp Club comes out, but if not, it'll be the next one that you're getting if you've already ordered it. You know, you'll be getting it at the beginning of next month. So, and it's a great set with all of the words and like the basic kind of banner shapes and stuff that are in there. So I thought I wanted to use that gift tag to create the 3 different galaxy gift tags here. So you can see here I've done 2 clouds with the lightning bolts coming out, and then I've used the word gold and heat embossed it, and then star from the die set, so it just says gold star. So, you know, you can give this as like, put it on a congratulations present or something, like someone earned a gold star. And then this one says superstar, and then I've used some of the larger stars in there to decorate, which I think looks really lovely. And then this one says make a wish as well, so you get the lovely star and wish words in the die set, which I'm sure I've already told you as well. To decorate the top of them, I used a little bit of the Tonic Baker's Twine in the black colour, and then a little bit of like white organza kind of ribbon, just to give a different sort of look to the tags. And then also to decorate, I used some honey gold. Yes, honey gold Nuvo glitter drops, and I love this about Nuvo drops, that it picks up the colour that was underneath, but even though I've put these onto the black distress ink that I inked over the top of, it's actually picked up the Aquaflow from underneath rather than just like the distress ink that I've put on top. So this one looks really kind of pinky red because there was obviously pinky red Aquaflow underneath the black ink just there, so it's picked that up really nicely. That's the true colour of honey gold, but you can see how it's picked up that reddy tone. That's exactly the same Nuvo drop, but it's just picked up the colours differently, and I really like that. There's even like a bit of a more bluey one down here and a yellowy one as well, so I really love how Nuvo drops do that. So that is the photographic step-by-step, which will be on the Tonic blog, just showing you how to create that cool galaxy background. But if you want a different way of creating a galaxy background, I did do a background building video a few years back on how to make galaxy backgrounds. Can't 100% remember what I used to create them, but it was another way of creating galaxy backgrounds. And then the sped up video for this month, I decided to go for more like clean and simple sort of cards. So I've done this little trio of cards. I have used my really old Dymo labeler to kind of extend the set and add some different sentiments to make them fit for different occasions. But you do get a nice variety of words in the stamp set as well, which you could easily use, or any of your dies or stamps from your stash as well. But I thought this lovely cloudy look really goes perfectly for like a baby card. So this one, I used one of the sentiment strips from Tonic, one of the scripty ones that were the first kind of long skinny sentiments that they did, and this one just says hello, and then I've used the Dymo label to add little one, so it's kind of like a new baby sort of a card. I've used the stamps in the background, so this is the star. It's actually like a whole border with the little stars on. I'm sure I've already showed it to you that I snipped it in half because I knew that I would use it more in a short capacity than going all the way across a card. So I really loved using it like this. But if you don't want to snip your stamp, obviously you can just like put some masking tape across here, or a post-it note, or a piece of scrap paper, and just ink up half of the stamp, and then you don't have to worry about it getting on the rest of your card as well. So there's ways around it if you don't want to actually cut into your stamp. But I just knew that I would personally use it in a shorter capacity more than I would in the longer. But I can put it back together again if I want to. And then I've also just sort of scattered stars and the gorgeous little moons as well. Tiny little crescent moon in there, which I really like. And I love all of the different sizes of stars. Some of these are the individual star dies, and some of them are actually the fall away from the large circle of stars, which I've used on this card here. So really, really simple card. And I just used some distress oxides in the background. This one was just broken china, and the other two are broken china and chipped sapphire. And also this splatter that you see in the background here, the light blue is the Arctic Blast Nuvo glitter marker, just getting some out onto your craft mat, whether you hold it down and get a puddle out, or whether you just scribble it onto your glass cutting mat, add a little bit of water and then splatter it on with a paintbrush. That's just the light blue splatter, and on these two I did the light blue, but I also used some Imperial blue as well. I'm pretty sure this is from a 3-pack of the Nuvo glitter markers. It was one of the original sets of them that had like I think it had 2 different blues and a silver in, so there might even be another blue in that set that you could use for the splatter, but these were just the 2 that I grabbed if you're interested in the colours. And so then I also did this one. So I did sorry you're under the weather. I always think that's a good sentiment to use when you have any kind of cloud, or even like a rainbow kind of a card as well. But I thought the lightning bolts would go really nicely for this kind of a card too. And then the water droplets are the gems from Tonic. They're the Pure Sheen water droplet gemstones. I think they might have discontinued the gemstones, which is really annoying, but you might be able to get them somewhere, maybe like on eBay, or maybe in person as well in shops. If any of your like local craft shops had been stocking the gems, they might still have some, but I think they're out of stock on the Tonic website. Definitely the UK website, you might still be able to find them on the USA one. If I can find them anywhere, I will put a link to them below in case you're after them. But I just love those water droplets. They just look so perfect for raindrops. Obviously, if you don't have the gems, you could maybe use a white gel pen or one of those glitter markers and draw your own little raindrops coming out of the clouds, or you could like freehand cut some little raindrops, or if you look in your intricate dies that you have, a lot of the time you'll find like little raindrop sort of shapes that fall out of them, you know, within like the detailed intricate pattern. Or if you have flower dies that have like the sort of outliney kind of petals, you might find that the bit that drops out of the middle of the petal is kind of like a raindrop look as well. So you know, have a look at what you've got to kind of recreate this card if you wanted to, because you don't actually get raindrop dies or stamps within the set. But I just wanted to show you like another way of using it, so you don't have to just be sort of more galaxy or just star themed. You can just use the sort of more weather elements from the set as well. So that is the Sorry You're Under the Weather card. And then the final one here, oh, I didn't actually tell you, these clouds on these two cards, you might notice that they look gorgeous and glittery. You might remember this from my up close video for that previous stamp club that had the moon die in it. I actually used this Pearl Luster glitter embossing powder from Nuvo. I think this looks absolutely beautiful for the moon from that previous one, and also for the clouds on here as well. I literally just took white cardstock, squished a little clear mark ink pad over the top. You can use Versafine or Perfect Medium as well, and then you can just sprinkle over your embossing powder and then heat it, and it's just a slightly off-white kind of a colour. It's that sort of little bit of a pearly, but it's packed full of glitter as well, so really, really lovely look that it gives you. And I also liked the look of shadowing the clouds. You know when they say every cloud has a silver lining? Well, I cut the cloud from silver as well and then offset it slightly, so it does actually have a silver lining, which I thought was quite nice. And then for the under the weather card, I swapped them, so there is actually a tiny white lining around like the grey sort of storm cloud, which I thought was, you know, it just made it look a little bit different from the other two cards, and kind of shows you a different way of sort of shadowing them and stuff. You might not think to shadow a metallic one with white, but I thought it looked quite nice. And then this one is using the circular element, but I did actually use a circle die from my stash to cut it out. You don't get a circle edge die in the die set, you just get the piece that cuts all of these gorgeous stars into it. Similar to the previous stamp club, I think it was last month's one, that had the fish going in the circle. It's a similar concept, so you don't get the outside edge, you just get the die that cuts into the card. So you could have cut this into the card and done like a shaker behind it. You could have made it see-through, so you could have seen inside the card through all the tiny stars. You could use it for some kind of 3D project and put battery operated lights behind it, so then you'd get sort of this pattern shining through. I mean, maybe like the top of a box would look really lovely, and then you could put lights in it and it might sort of shine up onto the ceiling as well. But the size of circle that I used is one of the ones from the basic circle layering die set from Tonic. Did I put the number on this? It's a really old set, this one, but if you can find it, it's a 481E. I don't know if you can actually get this one anymore. I think maybe the one that's out there is like from here, this kind of size. I'm not sure it goes up to the larger size, but the actual die that I used, you've probably got circles in your stash, because you know, you're always getting circles within layering die sets and stuff. But this circle that I did actually use is 3.5 inches. So if you did want to cut this circle out, 3.5 inches works really nicely. That perfectly cuts that out, but you could go slightly bigger, or probably a tiny bit smaller would work as well. You might have dies that have a nice small increment between them, and you can figure out which kind of one you want, and even like cut the behind one, because I did actually shadow it with silver. You could have cut the behind one with a slightly larger circle and then seen more of like the silver poking out from behind it as well. And again, like I did with last month's one with the fish, you could ink through this one really nicely as well and get the star design as a stenciled design on a project too. But I thought I'd just show you some nice clean and simple sort of cards. So for this step-by-step with the photos, I've sort of gone nice and inky and messy with Nuvo products. But I thought for my sped up video this month, I would just go with, you know, these kind of simple cards, just showing you kind of more of the dies really. I know it's called Stamp Club, but I've kind of focused more on the dies for these cards than the stamps, although I've brought in a few elements of the stamps, like the sentiment and like the little strings of stars as well. But I will pass you back over to future me to finish off the video for you. So I hope you enjoyed those samples too, and don't forget to check out the Tonic's blog to find that photographic step-by-step, and also stay tuned until like tomorrow, it'll probably be out, the sped up video showing you those cards as well. I was also just playing with bits and pieces that I had on my desk. I think some lightning bolts might look cute on this side of the journal page as well, so I might end up adding a couple of lightning bolts on there, I'm not sure yet. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this month's up close video on Tonic Stamp Club number 9, which is called Shoot for the Stars. I think it's a really lovely standalone stamp club, especially with the kind of way that the dies, they're not all just coordinating, you've got standalone dies in there as well. It makes it a much more kind of versatile sort of a set as well. But whether you just get it by itself, maybe this is like the first stamp club that you've seen and, you know, a lot of the other ones are sold out, or whether you have been collecting like the stamp clubs from the beginning and you got the Shoot for the Moon one before it sold out. I think they pair perfectly together, but obviously you can just use it individually as well. All of the cards that I've shown you have just been using it by itself. The only one I've actually combined it with is the journal page, but I'd already done this side of the page and I just wanted to extend it. But I do think they go really nicely together, so if you did get the other one, then this one is another one to expand on that if you've really enjoyed working with it. Because I think actually adding the clouds over the top of the moon would look really lovely, kind of reminding me of the DreamWorks introduction. You know, we have the little boy sitting on the moon and there's like the clouds in front of it. You could do that kind of card for a film lover in your life as well. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this month's up close video, and thanks so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!